We had a brand new client with $3.5 million tell us that he didn't think he could retire for another few years, while a couple with half that amount retired that same week. This video is about the exact moment your 401k becomes enough to retire early, and why that number is probably lower than you might think. If you've ever looked at your retirement account and thought, I don't know if this is enough, you're going to want to hear this, because there's one question that the $1.5 million couple could answer that the multimillionaire couldn't. I'm going to show you that question in just a minute. And understanding this difference could mean the difference between retiring now versus working 5 years longer than you actually needed to. Here's what I know as a certified financial planner and lead wealth advisor at Peak Financial Planning. The ones who successfully retire early know exactly when their balance is enough, and it's usually sooner than people without a plan realize. So in the next 7 minutes, I'm breaking down the exact framework that separates confident early retirees from people stuck in the one more year syndrome, even when they have more than enough money. So let me tell you about that $3.5 million client. High earner his entire career, great saver, did everything right. But when we sat down to talk about retirement at his age 60, he looked at me and he said, I just don't feel like I have enough yet. Maybe at age 65. Meanwhile, the $1.5 million couple, they retired that same week. Same age, similar lifestyle, half the money. So what was the difference? The $3.5 million client was trapped in what I call one more year syndrome. And here's why it happens to high earners more than anyone else. When you make $250,000 or maybe $300,000 a year, you see big numbers on your paychecks. You think, I need to replace that income, that gross income. And here's what they're missing though. You're not spending $200,000 or $300,000. You're spending maybe $120,000 or $150,000 after taxes, after your 401k contributions, and after additional costs that might disappear when you retire. You've got commuting costs, work clothes, lunches out, convenience spending because you're busy all the time. All of that can be reduced or maybe even eliminated when you retire. And because you're in a high tax bracket now, you think you need these massive withdrawals to maintain your lifestyle. But in retirement, you're in a completely different tax situation. The $3.5 million guy was stuck because he was looking at his gross income, not his actual spending. He couldn't see past the number to realize that he actually did already have enough. But here's where it gets interesting, right? The $1.5 million couple, they could answer one specific question that he couldn't. And that question is what told them their 401k and the rest of their assets were enough. So here's the question. Do you know exactly how much you're going to withdraw from which accounts and in which tax brackets over the next 5 to 10 years? The $1.5 million couple had our year-by-year strategy. They knew that they're going to pull $50,000 from their taxable brokerage in year 1 of retirement. They knew they're going to do micro Roth conversions in year 2 through 5, I think it was, up to their spending capacity, so it didn't affect their lifestyle spending. They knew that their pension would kick in at 65, and they had their Social Security strategy down for once they reached their mid-60s. You see, they weren't waiting to hit some arbitrary 401k number. They knew exactly that their $1.5 million was enough because they had our blueprint. The $3.5 million guy, he just had a number. No plan, no withdrawal strategy, just a vague idea that maybe 4% might work and a number he felt comfortable hitting or wanting to hit before he retired. And that's the difference. One couple had clarity, he had anxiety and confusion. So when is your 401k balance enough? Well, I would say that it's when you can answer that question that we just talked about with confidence. It's not about hitting some magic number like $2 million, $3 million, or $4 million. It's about having the right number to fund the life that you actually want to lead. You know you have that when you have a year-by-year plan that proves that your current balance can bridge you to Social Security and to RMD age and beyond. That's when you know. That's the moment that most people are searching for. And they miss it because they're waiting for their balances to hit some magic number instead of building a plan that might actually be able to show them their current balance is already enough. So how does $1.5 million with a strategy beat $3.5 million without it? Let me walk you through 3 advantages that make the smaller balance enough for them. First is that tax efficiency will actually multiply your money. Let's say you need $75,000 a year to live on. With a basic withdrawal from a traditional 401k, you pull $75,000 out after taxes. You're in the 22% bracket. You net about $58,500 after federal taxes alone. But watch what happens with this strategy. You pull $40,000 from your taxable brokerage. Because it's something called basis, maybe only $16,000 of it is actually taxable gain, long-term capital gains, taxed at 0 or 15%, depending on your income. Then you take the other $35,000 from that traditional 401k to cover the rest. Now you've got $51,000 in taxable income. And for a married filing joint couple in 2026, you're comfortably in the 12% bracket, which goes up to $96,950. So your total federal tax bill, about $6,000. That same $75,000 withdrawal just costed you $6,000 in taxes instead of $16,500. But here's the kicker. You still got significant room in the 12% bracket, about $46,000 worth of space before you hit the bottom of the 22% bracket. So maybe do a little micro conversion of $30,000 or $45,000 from your traditional IRA to Roth. You pay 12% on it, about $5,400 from your taxable account. That money is going to grow tax deferred forever. And when you pull it out later, it doesn't count towards any IRS income formulas. It's invisible. And this is going to be really important when you're in RMD age and you already have all that taxable income coming in, whether you need it, want it, or not. Now, this is just an example, and you might say, Sean, I don't even have a taxable account. This doesn't apply to me. But I want to show you that there is a difference between just randomly pulling money out of accounts and doing it strategically and methodically. Same balance, completely different outcome, and compounded over 10 to 20 years, this can make such a significant difference in your spending ability. This is why a $1.5 million balance is enough with a strategy, while $3.5 million without a strategy never really feels like enough. Now, the second advantage is going to be your healthcare bridge. And this is where early retirees get stuck often. They say, I don't want to retire early because how am I going to afford health insurance until age 65? And it's often the reason people think that their 401k isn't enough yet. And the answer is to have a true hard look at what health insurance is going to cost you. And the way that we do this for most of our clients is we like to break it into 3 phases. Phase 1 is COBRA. Assuming your business is large enough, you can extend your employer coverage for up to 18 months after you retire. Yes, COBRA is very expensive, and no, it's not a long-term solution, but if you miss the ACA Marketplace open enrollment window, you may have to bite the bullet for healthcare. Maybe you call it $1,500 to $2,500 a month for a couple, but the goal is that it's only for a few months and that it's going to bridge you to phase 2. And phase 2 is the ACA Marketplace or the Affordable Care Act. Before age 65, you're going to be on an ACA plan. And here's the magic. If you're able to control your income through smart withdrawals, like we just talked about and explained, you may be able to qualify for ACA subsidies. Coupled with taxable income of $70,000 or maybe $80,000 in retirement, might pay, say $900 a month for coverage instead of $2,000 a month. That's over $13,000 in annual savings in today's dollars because you know how to manage your adjusted gross income or AGI. And then phase 3 is Medicare at age 65. But even here, there's a trap called IRMA, or income-related monthly adjustment amount. Cross the income threshold by even $1, and your Medicare premiums can jump by over $3,000 a year for a couple every single year if you're not careful. IRMA uses your income from 2 years ago, so you really have to plan ahead and think strategically. The $1.5 million couple knew this, so they structured their withdrawals to qualify for ACA subsidies before age 65 and to stay under the IRMA thresholds once they started doing those micro Roth conversions that we talked about. So when you factor in their healthcare savings and their ability to maintain their overall spending to avoid surcharges, suddenly that $1.5 million balance is enough because you're not bleeding out $30,000 a year in premiums and surcharges and additional taxes that you could have actually avoided. And then our third advantage is flexibility. Now, most people think of retirement as being binary. You're either working or you're not. But a lot of smart retirees retire early and build flexibility into their plan. So what do I mean by this? Well, even $10,000 to $20,000 a year in part-time income in the first 3 to 5 years of retirement dramatically reduces the strain on your portfolio. Now, this isn't about needing to work. It's about giving yourself the option that makes your numbers even more bulletproof. But here's the thing. It has to be something that you really enjoy, something that fires you up and really gives you kind of structure, like good structure, not something you dread every morning because at that point, it's not worth it, right? Retirement is about enjoying every day and not just dreading going to a different workplace. Then there's Social Security timing for you. Every year you delay claiming from age 62 to age 70 increases your benefit by about 8% or so. So claim at 62, maybe you get $2,000 a month. If you wait till 70, that same benefit might be $3,540, something like that. So it sounds like a no-brainer, right? Wait till age 70, collect a bigger check. Boom. Wrong. Unfortunately, there is an opportunity cost to delaying your Social Security that you need to factor in. So when you factor that into the equation, which is what we do for all of our planning clients and ongoing clients, a filing recommendation often becomes much earlier than age 70. Not to mention, if you move your date of death up, just say 5 years in your plan, watch what the software recommends you do for your filing age. It's going to recommend you move it up quite significantly. These are the types of things that most people don't know that they don't know, and they can have such a profound impact on your retirement plan and strategy if not properly reviewed and executed on. So the key insight here is that when you build in flexibility, both in income and Social Security timing, your 401k doesn't need to be as large as you think it needs to be. All right, so real quick, let me give you this framework. I call it the 3-question early retirement test. These 3 questions will tell you if your 401k is enough now. Question 1 is actually going to be about your spending. Do you have flexibility in your spending? So take a look at your budget. How much of it is truly fixed versus variable? Fixed expenses are like your mortgage, insurance, property taxes, things you can't easily change or just not pay. Variable expenses are dinners out, travel, hobbies, things that you're able to dial up or down if need be. And I would say if 70 to 80% of your spending is fixed, then you're going to have very little margin for error. So your 401k is going to need to be larger to compensate for your inability to be flexible in your spending. But if only 30 to maybe 50% of your spending is fixed and the rest is variable, well, you have a lot of breathing room and you can make spending adjustments based on feedback from your income guardrails during your early years of retirement. Those early years is when your portfolio is most vulnerable, and we call this your retirement risk zone at peak. This is why there's really no universal enough number, even though some people, like to say that there is. Your 401k is enough when it can fund the life that you want to lead. Not someone else's retirement fantasy, not your neighbors down the street, but yours. So the $1.5 million couple needed $75,000 a year with flexibility. That was their number for their life. The $3.5 million gentleman had locked himself into a lifestyle with zero wiggle room. That's why at even $3.5 million, he didn't feel like it was enough for him. Now, question 2 is, do you have a withdrawal strategy for the next 5 to 10 years of early retirement? Not just, I'll take 4% a year. I mean, year by year. Which accounts do you plan to pull from? How much from each? What tax brackets are you going to land in by doing that? Do you know when your pension might kick in? Do you have a plan for your Social Security and what might cause that strategy to shift depending on factors in the market and within your life? This exact question, right, as far as withdrawing in early retirement, is the question that separates retirees who sleep well at night from those who don't, I promise you. If you can answer this question in detail, your current 401k balance might already be enough. If you can't, no balance will ever feel sufficient until you do. Now, question 3 is, can you add flexibility in years 1 through 5 of your retirement? Can you work part-time if needed? Even if it's just $10,000 to $20,000 a year, like I said, doing something fun. Can you adjust your spending down by maybe 10 or 15% if markets get choppy earlier on in retirement? And do you have a backup plan if healthcare costs more than you expect? And do you have a team that's going to help you identify which healthcare plan suits your healthcare needs and is cost effective and works within your plan? That's a feedback loop that you need to be very mindful of. So this isn't about needing 3 or 4 different backup plans. It's about having options and making sure that your plan is bulletproof. So if you answered yes to all of these, or even just most of those questions, like I said, your 401k might already be enough, even if your number seems lower than you might expect. If you haven't, it might be time to connect with a team that can help you get these answers and tell you definitively, yes, you're ready to rock and roll, or here's exactly what you need to do and what that timeline is going to look like. Because that's when you can start answering the questions. What accounts are you going to draw from? How much? What's the tax impact? And what are the proactive tax strategies you can do that fit within your spending capacity, that don't reduce from your lifestyle, but that improve your overall lifetime spending? So now you know the truth. Your 401k is probably enough when you have your year-by-year withdrawal plan that turns your balance into actual retirement income, not when you hit some arbitrary random number. But here's the next question that everyone asks me. Okay, I got my plan, but which accounts do I actually pull from first? And how should I think about it? Is it my 401k? Should I take Social Security early? Is it my pension if I have flexibility with my pension? Because if you get that sequencing wrong, a $20,000 withdrawal can create $37,000 in taxable income. And I'm not exaggerating. It's a real tax trap that catches retirees every single year off guard. That's exactly what I cover in my next video right here, titled 401k versus Social Security versus pension. Which should you claim first? I walk through this exact claiming order that avoids the 3 biggest tax traps in retirement. So video's right here, and I'll see you in there.